All right, so this tip is going to keep you out of a lot of trouble. So when you start a project like this and you're working close to a property line, whether you're putting in a wall or a fence or some kind of permanent structure or landscaping, you always want to make sure you know where the property line is before you start your work. So our client is actually on this property, on this side of the property line. You can see this here says point on line. So this little flag here, this is the actual point on the property line that we had surveyed. So you can see our work here is right on this side. This is the edge of our work. So we've got a few inches here. It's about a foot before our work actually starts. So you want to make sure that when you start a project like this, you have at least a few inches. That way you own the work that you did and you don't open up any sort of legal action or any kind of liability for the opposite property. Even if you think you're best friends with your next door neighbor or the neighbor on the other side of the street from you, that's, say, this is the next street up, that neighbor could sell their property or you could sell your property. It does tend to cause a lot of issues like along the property line and put people in court and at odds with each other. And it's usually just a matter of inches that makes the difference. So make sure when you do a project like this, get the property surveyed first, especially if it's anything permanent. You want to make sure that you're authorized to do the work, and you can't be if you're working on somebody else's property without their permission. Same thing, when you're putting a fence in, highly recommend. Some people like to split the cost of the fence with the neighbor. It's a terrible idea. I mean, you might get your neighbor to pay half of it or whatever, but in the future, when you sell your property, that fence is going to literally be owned half by this neighbor and half by this neighbor, and it can become a sticking point. You're much better off losing a few inches of space, putting it on your side, and just paying for the flipping fence. It doesn't cost that much money. Say, the cost of going to court and dealing with an attorney and fighting over a couple of inches, you're way better off just paying for the fence, getting exactly the kind of fence you want. If your neighbor wants a different kind of fence, they can put their fence right here. It's kind of silly because you're gonna have two fences side by side, but it's your fence. You can do whatever you want with it, and you never have to talk to your neighbor about it. Not to mention the fact that you'll have better privacy with two fences. You're not gonna be able to see through it. Dogs aren't gonna chase each other. No snooping, things like that. So anyway, my 2 cents, that's my opinion. You can take it or leave it.